What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and it's another video about PFL today, as I am going to recap the regular season of 2022. I've previewed all of these events, watched all of these events, and the regular season has just finished now. So before we go to the playoffs, maybe if you didn't catch them all, maybe if you're not kind of up to date with what has happened throughout the season, if you want to watch the playoffs, maybe this is a good reminder of what has happened, where we stand, and who is fighting who at this stage. Now, with that said, the regular season has just ended. As we've seen throughout the regular season, lots of things can change. The fights that are to be made might be changed. There might be injuries, a lot of that. But we can talk about where we are right now, regardless of that. Anyway, every time I come on here and I talk about the PFL, I suppose the first thing I talk about, and I will go through it card by card here, and then I'll go through it division by division, because I think that is important, because that's the way, the PFL kind of works it. And it's good. But I like to talk about the overall look of PFL and the production and the feel and all of that. And do you know what? I really like it. I actually think it got better this year. There was a few things last year that was maybe a little bit annoying. Maybe they had too much of the smart cage stuff. Maybe they did too much of the, the kind of the fake judging, as I like to call it, stuff. And they still have bits and pieces of all that, but I think they've toned it down a bit. I think they use it now as something to be different from the UFC, to be different from Bellator and all that, and don't use it as, the everything, which is good. It should never have been that. And to use it as something different for people who like it, or just to, as I said, the perfect word is just to be a little bit different. I think that's good. And it's no problem. And I think they've used that very well. I really like the commentary as well. I think it's very good. I think Kenny Florian and Randy Couture have both improved a lot since their time in the UFC, especially Kenny. I think the practice of broadcasting, from doing it from the UFC back in the day, from doing a podcast, from doing, I think it was the battle bots and different things like that, from being on the desk and all different things, I think it's really helped them. And as someone who started off when I was doing podcasts, doing a bit of broadcasting or whatever, obviously at a very lower level, you listen to your early stuff and it's like, oh God. And and you listen back to yourself after a few years and like, oh my God, I can't believe I sounded like that. I can't believe I said those sort of things. And I'm sure when the UFC kind of started off throwing fighters into the deep end, basically, they didn't have maybe as much training, they didn't have as much preparation, as many stats and things like that. And I think over the years, and maybe that was unfair to people like Kenny to put him in there like that, but now, over the years, I think he's really improved, and I think he's really, really great. And I like Charlotte O'Connell an awful lot. And the last event as well, Lillian Garcia, she's good as well. People know about from back in the day during the WWE. Like, as a lad who was on the verge of losing his voice myself, she lost her voice on the 6th PFL card of this year. And she tried through the first 3 or 4 fights. I give her all the credit, and she just couldn't go on. And I think the right move was made as Sean O'Connell stepped in. He did a great job, kept it simple, no problem. Then Kenny had to kind of step into his role as well, kept it simple, did well, and it went off kind of flawlessly. Unless you maybe had it pointed out to you, maybe you wouldn't even notice. So they did a great job there in that as well. So all around, I think that is pretty good. A couple of things I don't like, and maybe it's just me, I don't like the referee glasses thing. I just feel like it distracts him a little bit. Like I imagine if I was a referee in that position, I'd be like, oh, I can't believe they're giving me this thing to wear. Obviously, Verdict MMA is absolutely terrible. And if I could get rid of that, it'd be the first thing that would go for me. But they don't use it too much, and I think it kind of shows itself to be terrible at times as well. And the algorithm thing as well. As I mentioned, they don't use it as much, so maybe I'm happier with it than I once was. So yeah, overall, I think that's pretty good. The biggest issue I think that PFL have in their production is just the timings between fights. It just feels like they're so long, and there are a lot of finishes in PFL as well, because you get extra points for it and all of that, but the amount of time that seems like it's wasted between fights, and then as well the start card, like over here it's 10:30 and it doesn't start till like 11:15. It's like, do you really need to start it that early? Do we really need to go through all of it? I don't know. It seems like it drags a bit, but that's something, especially to start the show, you can learn well. I'm not tuning in for the first half an hour. Let me watch something else and I'll tune in after that as well. They need to get started as well. The guys, Ian Parker, I think is his name, and Coachman, the guy that used to be in WWE, they got to get a proper setup for them. They're like on their laptops. they got to get that sorted as well. But I do like them coming in. The betting is going to become a more serious and an extra part of MMA over the next few years, and I've no problem with them trying that, but they need, that's a part of the production that they have to upgrade. Get a camera like I have it, get a microphone like I have it. Not that expensive, to be honest. You'll probably get it all done for $2,000 or something like that, which is, expensive in the grand scheme of things. But when you're on ESPN and when you're PFL and you have a lot of money, not that expensive, and I think it'd make everything so much better. So yeah. But overall, I'm someone who would be fairly critical of commentary, as you can probably see from my tweets and all of that, and fairly critical of production. But I like theirs. I think the first card of this season, they had a few glitches and they had a few things going wrong and all of that. But from then on, they really didn't. The graphics were good and things came up on time and everything. And in general, it was very, very good. Oh, and as well, they're on Channel 4 here in the UK and Ireland, and it's just so great because, and do you know what, actually in Ireland as well, I'm not sure if it's sure in the UK, and I shouldn't say it because maybe I'll tell them, but they leave the whole card on YouTube. Do you know the undercard is on YouTube? But I was just looking tonight, funny enough, because I watch it on my PlayStation because you can get HD there, and my PlayStation just stopped connecting to the internet or whatever, and I switched back to YouTube and it was still on, and I was like, wait, hold on, this was supposed to only be the undercard, but no, it turns out the main card and the undercard are all on YouTube here in Ireland anyway, so that's absolutely great as well. But to have it on Channel 4, to just have it in the skybox here, it makes life so much easier for me, and I'm sure for people who want to watch it in the morning as well. And it's just something, if they're direct competition with Bellator, it really sets them apart, because Bellator, it's just getting tougher and tougher to watch all the time, especially if you're in Ireland. Now in the UK, it's on the iPlayer, I still think, and on BBC 3 maybe, some of them. But however, here it's on this Virgin Media 2, right? It's we have 4 channels in Ireland, main channels. The third one of them is Virgin Media, and then they have a Virgin Media 2 as well, which would be the 5th channel. Both of them are free there with your TV license, that's grand. But they have a sports channel, which is a subscription channel they can only get with broadband and with their TV package or whatever. And it's one of these high fiber broadband TV packages, which you can only get in the big cities. And I think I could be wrong, but I think it's only 3, maybe 4 cities in Ireland where you can get it. I can't get it here. I'm in the biggest town in the third biggest county in Ireland, and I can't get it. I literally cannot buy it. If I wanted to buy the channel that Bellator is on, I cannot get it. So there's no way for me to watch Bellator when it's on that channel. Now, sometimes it's on the free channel. Very rarely, though. The big card last week, the Gregor Mousasi card, was not on, so I could not watch it. And that's ridiculous, really. With PFL, just make it so simple. It's on Channel 4, you can watch it. It's on YouTube, you can watch it. Absolutely ideal, and it's great. So let's get into their cards for the year, and I'll quickly run through the results, then go to the divisions and maybe discuss the divisions in further detail. To start off with, they had a few lightweight fights to headline the card and underneath it as well. Probably the fight of the season, maybe, thinking back, I'll go through it, but I think it was Clay Collard versus Jeremy Stephens. An absolute banger of a fight. Clay Collard ended up winning the unanimous decision there. Maybe one of the biggest shocks of the early goings of the season then was Haush Mafeu, who beat Don Madge, who obviously came in last year, got one good win and looked good. And it was expected to do big things, but unfortunately fell short for them. Then Antonio Carlos Jr., the last year's champion, the 205 divisional champion, he got a 29-second Darshuk against Dylan Monte. Corey Hendricks beat Emiliano Sardi in a bit of an upset there. Olivier Aubin-Mercier beat the former 2-time champion Nathan Schultz. Then Alex Martinez, one of the standouts of the year, he got a unanimous decision over Stevie Ray. We get more to Stevie Ray later on. Close fight, but Stevie almost submitted him in the third, but Martinez ended up winning it. Then Martin Hamlet came out wrestling again, looked really good there. Massive knockout for Omari Akhmedov, another guy who really emerged this year to be a star, along with Rob Wilkinson at 205 pounds. So there was lots of great finishes there. The 205 pound division opened up really, really well here, and it was an alternate fight in Simeon Powell against Clinton Thomas as well on that first card. But a big knockout for Rob Wilkinson, a big knockout for Omari Akhmedov, and and a big submission for Antonio Carlos Jr. all on the first day. Whereas the lightweight division then, Maffeo got the finish. Collard Orban Mercier got the decision wins there, so he was a little bit ahead of them there on that one. So the second fight night of the year, the heavyweights came to headline, and Bruno Capiloza got the first round knockout against Stuart Austin there. Made real light work of the guy who had beaten Tom Aspinall, and I suppose he'll always be known for that, even though that was a long time ago and one that probably a lot of people don't remember, but he got the great knockout there. Two, stalwarts of the PFL, Chris Wade and Lance Palmer, took each other on. Chris Wade got the unanimous decision there. Another great fight then as well. Brendan Loughnane took on Raiji Kudo. For me, Raiji Kudo, the emerging prospect, I would say, from this year in the PFL, looked absolutely fantastic. Almost knocked Brendan Loughnane out in the first round. Loughnane came back, won the second round, and then there was a technical decision a couple of minutes in to the third. Loughnane ended up winning that third round 10-9 on the 3 minutes that had been held. Ended up winning the 29-28 decision there as well. So Kudo could really have gone on and won that fight in the last 2 rounds. Can concede that he, and I'm sure Brendan Loughnane as well, he tweeted me the other day saying that Kudo guy is tough, and he absolutely is. Loughnane got through it though, did really well to come back, so both guys came out. Both guys emerged from that fight as winners. Let's be honest, they absolutely did. 25-second knockout then for Hina Fahea in the heavyweight division, which kind of sent shockwaves, I suppose, through that heavyweight division. Everyone kind of feared him based on his size and his power, but after that it was really shown. Denis Goltsov then got a nice finish, ground and pound in the first round against Gary Godale. Ante Deja got another knockout against Matthias Scheffel, knocked him down a couple of times, finished him in the second round, and made Scheffler look like he wasn't the best fighter in the world. We'll get back to him in a second. Bubba Jenkins decisioned Kyle Bochniak in the 145-pound division, as did Klidson Abreu in the 265-pound division against Adam Koresh. Sheehan Moraes won the decision against Boston Salmon as well, and Adriano Flores beat Saba Balaji in not a great fight in that one, the 145-pound division. On the third week then, Kayla Harrison came back, and it's probably her poorest display of her career so far. She fought Marina Makatina. It was a drab affair. Went 15 minutes. Kayla Harrison came out afterwards and was not happy with her performance whatsoever, and she'd a right to be. It was good, she fought well, and if it was anyone else, you'd probably say it's a good dominant performance. Makatina didn't really get close to her, but for Kayla Harrison, it was a disappointment, and it absolutely was. The 170-pound division got going that night as well, and it was a big shock here as Carlos Leal beat Ray Cooper. Now, Ray Cooper missed weight as well. The former two-time champion, I believe. Two-time champion. He missed weight, so he went down to -1 point, and that was a massive loss for Ray Cooper. Anthony Pettis, then, the big star, probably the biggest star for the PFL. He got a win here after last year. This was a big night as well, because Pettis and Rory McDonald both fought here, both got wins. Pettis finished my countryman Miles Price in the first round here. Miles dove in early for a takedown, and he paid the price of that. I spoke to him here on Sherdog about that, and he explained it very, very well. Then Rory McDonald finished Brett Cooper in a similar fashion. Quick rear naked choke there for Rory McDonald, whereas Pettis got the triangle choke. And it was great because you got 6 points, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah, for 2 first-round finishes here, 1 for Pettis, 1 for McDonald. And I think last year we spoke an awful lot, and we'll speak about this again towards when I get through these cards, but we spoke about how PFL had an issue in that maybe some of their big stars actually weren't getting through to the playoffs. You had a great regular season where there was, your stars are winning or they were losing, and there were shocks, and then you got to the playoffs and that was still happening, but you didn't have your big stars there. And I think the fact that they started them off, you could say with easier matchups, although Miles Price, I kind of fancied him going into that one. He performed, he was 3 years out of the cage, so you can't take anything away from him, but his next performance, he performed a lot better, and we'll get to that in a second. But Brett Cooper, absolutely, was an easier kind of matchup for Rory McDonald, and he got through that one very, very well. So after that, both of those guys fancy to go through, and we'll see, obviously, towards the end of this video if they did, and you'll probably guess for yourself. Then Larissa Pacheco, who I suppose is the great hope for that women's 155-pound division, or was, with someone else, and we'll talk about her in a second. But she knocked out Zamagul, who, what is she, 7-2 now? No, I think she's 7-3 now in her career. God almighty, I'd love to know the 7 people she beat her, because we'll get to her second fight in a second. But yeah, she didn't put up much of a fight neither for 2 PFL fights this year, let's just put it that way. Danilo Taylor performed very well. He won a split decision against Joe Zaffarino, and in the big shock, and probably the most disappointing result of the year for PFL, when Jenna Fabian beat Julia Budd. Because Fabian missed weight as well, if I'm not mistaken, for this one. So Bud actually ended up getting the points. But to lose that fight for Julia Budd, when she was coming over, and she was the one person in that division that I talked up and everyone talked up, it could be the person, not necessarily to beat Kayla Harrison, but to be a match for Kayla Harrison that we can get a little bit excited about. She's fought the best of the best. She's been able to stay in there against some of the best and the best. She's beaten everyone she's faced outside of the best of the best. And then she comes in and she loses to Jenna Fabian. Now, don't no disrespect to Jenna Fabian. I think she's a very good striker, and maybe not the best all-around fighter, but if you strike with her, she can beat you. And that's exactly what she did against Julia Budd. A massive disappointment for the PFL, and an even bigger disappointment was Julia Budd's last fight for them in this regular season, because she was injured and was supposed to fight Kayla Harrison at PFL 6, the last card, and that didn't happen. Kaylin Young was stepped in there, and we'll get to that in a second. But it was just a huge blow for PFL, I think, and a huge blow for Kayla Harrison as well as Julia Budd, because that's a fight that I think everyone wanted to see. And even though the fight fell out, I think it took away a little bit of shine from it after she lost in that fight. Another one of the stories of the season, Sadibou C. He got the split decision win here. It was a couple of close fights for C this year, but a good win over Al Sakin. Gerard Al-Shawi got a split decision, as did Oleshnik here against Abby Montez. Montez, I'm a big fan of Montez, but she's a mile too small for that division. It feels like she's a 125er fighting a 155. It just can't work, and I don't think. I think she should power from the PFL. She's 3-2 or something now in her career. Maybe if she can get picked up by Bellator, go to the local scene, get some wins, go to the UFC or something like that. I think she has the ability to go there, but not at 155. She needs to go to 135 at least. I don't know if she could get down to 125. Now, maybe I'm overstepping the mark there, but I definitely think 145, definitely 135. Martina Jindrova beat Vanessa Mella as well. Mella, another person who is just, I said Ronald McDonald was the nutritionist for some of these people, and that's nothing against them. They have to eat up to get to the weight, but they're just miles overweight. They're literally, some of these people are 20-30 pounds overweight just to get here, and that's no good. And Melo and Montez, that's a fight I would love to see, maybe at 135 pounds, but yeah, they're too small for that division. Koleshnik showed it, and Jindarova, to a lesser extent, showed it as well. The fortnight then of action, a close decision, probably the most contentious decision of the year. Although I thought it was close, Alex Martinez beat Clay Collard in that one. Tough loss for Collard, but a good win, a good performance from him, and a good performance as well from Martinez. Then Antonio Carlos Jr. won the unanimous decision against Borussi Soto. I think a lot of people expected him to get out there, but Soto stayed in that one. Aushma Feo lost to Aubin Mercier. Miles Price, who I mentioned earlier on, put on a great display. Lost a split decision to Jeremy Stevens. Well, I might be a little bit biased here being Irish, but I thought he won that fight. It was a very close fight. Came on well and won the third round there, and put up a great performance. And I think he'll be back maybe towards the end of the year, if there's, to find one of the playoff cards, maybe not necessarily in the playoffs, unless maybe someone gets injured or something, but hopefully he'll be back, and I think he deserves another shot next year. There was another big finish in for Amari Akhmanov. He got the arm triangle over Ostelos. Dan Schultz bounced back. He got a win over Martin Held after losing to him. It was the last year, the year before, to beat to end his big unbeaten streak, so there was a bit of revenge there in that one. Dylan Monte then beat Emiliano Sardi, who had a very poor year this year. Rob Wilkinson knocked out Victor Pesta. Tough year for Victor Pesta, 2 big knockouts, but Wilkinson looked good. Josh Silveri, I was very impressed with him. Son of Conan Silveri, he got the finish over Martin Hamlet. And then also on that card, Nate Ginnerman beat Jake Childers. Fifth fight of the fifth event of the year then. Massive underdog wins here, massive shocks. Bruno Capelloza in the main event, knocked out by Matthias Scheffel. I remember coming into this and minus 600 was too small of a price for Bruno Capelloza, and then Scheffel Matthias Scheffel absolutely just destroyed him from pillar to post. 15 minutes, a great display from Scheffel. and the deserved winner in that one. Questions now to be asked of Bruno Capelloza as he moves forward, and we'll get to where that heavyweight division ended in a second, which after that was a little bit unfair, but that's the way the cookie crumbles in this. Stevie Ray then got the modified body lock, body triangle submission over Anthony Pettis. The second time Pettis has been submitted with something similar in his career after Dustin Poirier also caught him as well. Massive win for the Scotsman Stevie Ray, and a great win there. We'll talk more about them fighting each other in a second. There's a win in Clids and Abreu shocked Hin and Fahea, so that's 3 shocks in a row there at the top of that card, and 3 massive shocks as well. I think, although I fancied I did not fancy Matthias in any way. Stevie Ray, I thought it was a 50-50, but I thought Abreu had a chance against Fahea, although I did pick Fahea. But Chris Wade got the win in, and he finished Kyle Bozniak, who was a guy who took a bit this year, if we want to put it that way. Ante Deja, a guy who always does well in that 265 pound division, always puts up a tough fight for anyone, got another win in, as did Dennis Goltsov. Bubba Jenkins, Lance Palmer picked up their wins, and then my guy Raji Kudo as well got a beautiful right hook knockout against Antonio Flores. Brendan Loughnane, his opponent before that as well, got the unanimous decision win against Ago Huschik as well after his eye closed. Very, very tough one, and Juan Adams in the heavyweight division won there as well. And then last event of the regular season for the PFL, maybe the most exciting one. There was lots of big knockouts and lots of big finishes as well. Kayla Harrison in the main event absolutely destroyed Caitlin Young, went across double leg, up against the cage, double leg again, down on the ground, and finished her. Little bit of an early stoppage, I would say, from the referee, but one of those ones. It reminded me of Leslie Smith versus Cyborg back in the day. Everyone knew it was early, but everyone was like, it's probably better off that it was a little bit early. Then we've Sidibou C beat Rory McDonald, a very close decision. The judges gave unanimously to C, and I think they were right, to be honest. I had him winning 1 and 3. I think the second was very close. If you gave him the second, I think that was right. I think he definitely won the first. Rory was just pushing him against the cage for the full fight. So, look, if there'd have been a card for Rory, I wouldn't have gone up in arms, but I think the right card was for Sidibou C, and he won. And he won rightly so. Ray Cooper then, unfortunately, by the time this fight had happened, because of what came before it, he was already out. But he got a 24-second win over Brett Cooper anyway, who took a couple of hellacious beatings this year. But yeah, Ray Cooper, unfortunately, probably the biggest casualty of this year in terms of big names not making it through to the playoffs, is out as we speak. Now, we'll never know when injuries and all, he might get back in, but Ray Cooper the third is out. I remember after last year, I was kind of saying I would love to see him in the UFC, and people said, oh, sure, you're taking £1 million out of his pocket. Well, he doesn't have the million now, does he? So that's very unfortunate, and I've said it throughout this year. I think the likes of Cooper, the likes of Schultz, the likes of Wade, Palmer and others as well, they've been there for long enough now. Maybe it's better off to try somewhere else for a year, maybe 2 years. If they want to come back to the PFL, all well and good, but taking that same path over and over is very tough. It's just very tough to do. He missed weight the first time, obviously, and all. So yeah, very, very tough. Magomed Karimov didn't come back. It was his first fight of the year. Got the second round KO here. Beautiful KO over Dylan Taylor here. Beautiful KO as well. That was from Magomed Umalatov, who knocked out Jared El-Shalawi in the first round. Absolutely knocked him out cold after throwing a short spinning back fist inside. Larissa Pacheco as well. I said it. She's lost twice to Kayla Harrison, but it's the fight. It's the fight now we have to pin our hopes to, because she's the only one there, and she destroyed Gina Fabian, who beat Julia Budd last time out. So that's a great win there for Pacheco. Absolutely great stuff. Martina Makachina and Jindarova also got wins, as did Kolesnik. So a great win, a great year for Jindarova and for Kolesnik as well. So yeah, that was it. That was all the results of this year. So let's check on the standings as we enter the playoffs. So let's start at featherweight here in the 145-pound division. The 4 people to qualify: Chris Wade, Raiji Kudo, Bubba Jenkins, and Brendan Loughnane. 1 fights 4, 2 fights 3, if I'm not mistaken. That's how it works. So Chris Wade will be fighting Loughnane. Kudo will be fighting Jenkins. Now, I'll be previewing all of these fights before they happen, so I won't go into a big breakdown here or anything like that. I think the main part from that is they got Loughnane through. The fights are going to be on in the UK. Massive. That's absolutely massive for them to get Brendan Loughnane through there. They'll be hoping he beats Chris Wade, I would say, and gets to the final. And if it's a Kudo rematch or a Bubba Jenkins fight, that's a big fight there and a massive fight for the UK. So hopefully Brendan Loughnane can get that eye fixed. Hopefully it's not a really bad one. Hopefully the knees are better and all as well. But it's funny, Kudo went 1-1, and the other lads, the two lads beneath him, went 2-0, and he still finished second. But that finish is what matters, and that's kind of cool. I like that from the PFL. So great stuff there. The casualties, I suppose, in that division: Lance Palmer didn't make it, even though he went 1-1 in the year, finished with 3 points. Kyle Boschniak, Shaman Morais, had one good outing. Flores got knocked out by Kudo. So yeah, but Lance Palmer definitely the big one there. Then we move down to the 265-pound division. Dennis Golsov finished top of that division with 9 points. He will be fighting the champ. Bruno Capelozzo finished 4th and 6 points after going 1-1. That's going to be a tough fight for Capelozzo after, Golsov is a very, very heavy wrestler and all of that. Then Ante Deja will be fighting Hinan Fahea. I'd be interested to see who's favoured for that, because Deja can fight all around. Hinan Fahea is a big knockout artist. But that's an interesting fight there. Abreu unlucky not to get through. He went 2-0. Abreu won both of his fights, didn't get through, and there's 3 guys above him who only won 1 fight. So it shows you need to get finishes, and if you don't, this is what can happen. Juan Adams as well went 1-0. He didn't get through, and he did get the finish, so he can be a bit unfortunate as well. Maybe they make that matchup. Maybe they make Adams versus Abreu, and let's see how that goes. But you'll feel sorry for both of those guys there. 205 pounds then. Rob Wilkinson, real standout. Him and Akhmedov both finished on 11 points. Akhmedov will be fighting Antonio Carlos Jr. What a fight that is. And then Wilkinson will fight Dylan Monte. You'd probably favour Wilkinson in that one, but a massive fight between Akhmedov and Carlos Jr. And I think, if Wilkinson wins that fight, him versus either Akhmedov or Antonio Carlos Jr., that'll be a ferocious fight. Looking forward to that one there. Joshua Silveri almost made it. He went 1-0, finished on 6 points, but didn't make it in to the qualifiers. I think it would have been good for them if he got in there. Sardi, I suppose, is the big casualty there, didn't make it through. 155-pound division then. Top of the pile, Pettis went 1-1. Oba Mercier and Alexander Martinez both finished 2-0 and finished second and third. And then CV Ray finished 4th after getting the finish of Pettis. So it'll be Pettis and Ray again. They're going to be fighting again. Then Oba Mercier and Martinez, very even matchup there. Two very interesting fights. Let's see if Pettis' rib is healed up, and let's see if he can get back there. I suppose the most casualties, because this is their best division. Clay Collard out, has been kind of a star for them over the last while. Nathan Schultz out, former 2-time champion. Hauschel Maffeo out, Jeremy Stevens out, Don Madge out, Marcin held out, even Miles Price, when they're coming back here in the UK. I'm sure a lot of people would have travelled over from Ireland if he was fighting on it as well. So anyone who went out in that division would have been a loss to him. So, that was always going to happen. Then at 170, they'll be delighted to see Rory McDonald at the top of that division. Sadibou C finished second, and Carlos Leal after that with Umalatov in 4th. So it'll be Umalatov versus McDonald. That's going to be an unmerciful battle. Only Umalatov only fought once, but managed to get the first round finish, so he'll be in there. And then C versus Leal. They lost Magomed Karimov there. He didn't get through. Ray Cooper, the third, didn't get through. So that's a tough one for them there. Obviously, Gleason Tebow as well. But in the women's lightweight division, in the most important one, Kayla Harrison got through. And she avoided Pacheco as well, which is great for them, because if they can build up that final, it'll be Pacheco versus Kleshnik, Harrison versus Jindarova. And if Harrison and Pacheco meet, that's a massive final again. Even though we know what's happened before, big losses there, I would say, would be just Julia Budd in that one. They would have hoped to have gotten her through. She finished on 3 points, didn't make it through. So, those are the standings as we go. Some very good fights. We have Harrison in there. We have Rory McDonald. We have Anthony Pettis. We have Antonio Carlos Jr. We have Bruno Capelozzo. We have Bubba Jenkins, Chris Way, Ruji Kuda, Brendan Loughnane. The stars are there. Great for the PFL. I think they'll be happy with how the regular season went. And going now over to the UK, it'll be interesting to see how many tickets they can sell, if they can fill up those crowds, if the people react to it well. It's on Channel 4, massive for them as well. So interesting times, exciting times for the PFL. Pretty good regular season with a great playoffs to come. I will have previews for every single one of those fights, every single one of those cards right here on Sherdog.com. Stay tuned, and we will have them in the coming weeks for you. All right, I'll leave it at that. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.